You know, when you really boil it down, power is all about having an advantage. And the greatest advantage of all? It's knowing what your rival doesn't. It's about seeing their next move before they've even made it. Today, we're going to deconstruct a law that turns every single social interaction into a chance to gather intelligence. It's all about this idea of posing as a friend while you're secretly working as a spy.
But let's start with a puzzle. I want you to imagine there's someone you absolutely have to win over. Could be a client, a boss, maybe even a rival. But here's the catch. They want nothing to do with you. They refuse to meet, they won't even listen. So how do you break through? How do you possibly turn a hard no into a powerful, lifelong alliance?
Well, the answer lies in one of the most brilliant plays in the history of persuasion. It's a story about two absolute titans from the early 20th century, and it's really a case study in how you can land the impossible client if you have enough strategic patience.
So on one side, you've got Joseph Duveen. He was, without a doubt, the world's greatest art dealer. Super charming, a real talker, and just relentless. His one big obsession, to make Andrew Mellon, this formidable, super quiet industrialist, his client. But Mellon, he wanted absolutely nothing to do with the guy. The whole thing seemed completely impossible.
But Duveen was playing the long game. For years, and I mean years, he didn't even try to talk to Mellon. He just studied him. He learned his habits, his tastes, even his phobias, by secretly putting Mellon's own staff on his payroll. He basically created his own private intelligence network inside Mellon's house. By 1921, Duveen probably knew Mellon better than Mellon's own family. He was finally ready to make his move.
The trap he set up was just surgical. Mellon was staying at Claridge's Hotel in London, so Duveen booked the suite right below him. Now, through his informant network, Mellon's own valet, Duveen knew the exact moment Mellon was about to leave his room. So Duveen times his own exit perfectly, steps into the elevator just seconds later, and then he says, "How do you do, Mr. Mellon?" Like it was pure coincidence. "I am on my way to the National Gallery."
And you know what? That one-chance encounter led to Mellon becoming Duveen's most loyal, most lucrative client for the rest of his life. So what was the secret weapon here? It wasn't his charm, it wasn't luck, it was spying. This is the story of how raw information gets transformed into undeniable influence.
What Duveen was practicing has a name: social espionage. It's the art of using these polite, everyday conversations to probe for really valuable information. You pose as a friend, but you're working as a spy. Every handshake, every dinner, every casual chat becomes an opportunity to learn something.
And listen, this is not some new idea. The principle is absolutely timeless. The master strategist Sun Tzu wrote about it centuries ago. He said victory doesn't come from the gods, it doesn't come from some magic formula, it comes from one thing and one thing only: foreknowledge. And that knowledge, he says, has to come from spies.
So think of it this way. Spying gives you a third eye. It's like, in a world where everyone else has two eyes, you've got this godlike perspective. You're not just seeing what's right in front of you, you're seeing what's hidden, what's coming around the corner. You can see into people's true intentions, which basically makes you clairvoyant, while everyone else is just guessing.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how do you actually do this without looking like a spy? Let's open up the toolkit and check out 3 really powerful techniques you can use to gather intelligence in just a simple conversation.
All right, so there are 3 core tools in this kit. First, a move from the master politician Talleyrand: suppress yourself. Basically say very little. Let other people fill the silence. They'll almost always reveal their intentions without even realizing it. Second, there's the tactic of false sincerity. You share a minor, totally made-up secret. This builds a little trust, and often makes them feel like they should share a real one back. And third, you can contradict them just to provoke them. Argue a point just to get under their skin. Why? Because an emotional person loses control, and the truth often slips out when they're angry.
Talleyrand was an absolute master of this stuff. At these big diplomatic parties, he'd sometimes just blurt out a completely fake secret, like say that the Tsar of Russia was about to arrest his top general. And then he would just sit back and watch. By seeing which diplomats got nervous or excited, he could instantly figure out what their governments were secretly planning. It was like one of his contemporaries said, "Monsieur Talleyrand fires a pistol into the air to see who will jump out the window." But hey, spying isn't just about collecting facts and figures. There's a much deeper, more valuable kind of intelligence: understanding someone's character. This is about spying not for what someone knows, but for who someone is.
Check out this method from the Persian king, Khosrow II. To test a courtier's loyalty, he'd pull them aside and tell them a secret. Their best friend was actually a traitor. Then he'd just watch the friend. If the friend's behavior didn't change at all, it meant the secret was kept. The courtier was loyal. But if the friend suddenly got nervous or distant, he knew the secret had been betrayed. The key thing here? The test wasn't really about finding traitors. It was about discovering who he could actually trust. It revealed their character.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about offense, how to go out and get information. But what happens when the tables are turned? What's the ultimate defense when you know you're the one being watched? Winston Churchill put it perfectly. Truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. See, the most powerful countermove isn't just hiding your information. It's actively spreading false information. It's the art of disinformation.
Think about the difference here. Spying is all about giving yourself a third eye, so you can see the truth. Disinformation, on the other hand, is about putting out one of your enemy's eyes. They think they're seeing clearly, but they're only seeing the version of reality that you created just for them. You're controlling their vision.
A classic example of this comes from World War II. The Nazis were hammering London with these V1 bombs, and they were relying on their spies for targeting info. But here's the thing. The British had turned those spies into double agents. So these agents started feeding slightly incorrect coordinates back to Germany. With every new report, the bombs landed a little bit further and further from their real targets, until eventually they were just exploding harmlessly out in the countryside. The British literally saved the city with a bodyguard of lies.
And that leaves us with one final thought. In this world that is just flooded with information, where everyone is constantly probing and being probed, you've really got to ask yourself a critical question. In this constant battle for information, are you the one with the third eye, or are you the one being expertly and invisibly blinded?